policemen
no.
in West Vancouver.
West
and I don't live
Vancouver.
there.
When I lived in West Vancouver, it was amazing. My kids got to know them because they'd find them out in the middle of nowhere and bring them home.
West Vancouver's a municipal police force.
That's right.
That's what I'm
Do
saying.
the people in West Vancouver feel they know their police? I
Some
don't
of them
think
do.
so.
Well, I know the police in West Vancouver, and I live in North Vancouver because when I drive through West Vancouver, I recognize them at the street. I can wave at them at cross. I mean, you guess they've been around for longer, 14, 15, 20
we
years.
had one senior officer out in Pitt Meadows who's not there anymore, but I mean, he was there for a long time. I've been out there, well, we're into our 18th year now. He was there for at least 10 years that I know of. And I mean, he got to know my kids.
And you drive through Vancouver, and I'll bet you recognize police officers on a fairly regular basis.
No, I don't.
You don't?
No,
Oh, okay.
I honestly do not. The police officers that I recognize are the ones when I'm in meetings, and I've met them before, but driving through the streets, I wouldn't see a police officer that I recognize.
Okay.
Not at all, because
Well,
I think we're such a huge metropolitan community.
Maybe I recognize them then because I go in the Gay Pride Parade and the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And that
well, yeah, and you're out and about a bit
and they're
longer
marked,
than I am.
they're blocking off intersections. And
yeah. I think I mean, there's no question. There've been some major problems.
I'm not. The fact that there's been some hassles in the RCMP are really quite irrelevant because they got. If it's 1 out of 1,000 people that have caused a problem, that's nothing in relation to most businesses and most companies. That's going to happen anyway.
I'm not going to sit here and defend the RCMP.
No.
They've made some major errors, and it's been basically from the top down. We now have a civilian at the top. They have a civilian at the top.
Yep.
I don't know that that's going to make any difference because I don't think the force are going to pay much attention to. I don't think they respect it. As far as Crime Stoppers is concerned, the fellow who has been assigned from RCMP headquarters to be the Canadian and the international representative for Crime Stoppers, both internationally and across the country, is also a civilian. So I'm feeling maybe a little bit more of a move from the hierarchy coming down on us to putting a civilian in to work with us as opposed to...
Yeah.
Because
Well,
RCMP,
that's a good point.
yeah, I mean, that's how I'm feeling, and if we can see that, spread out throughout the community a little bit more, but the RCMP are a useful force, a necessary force in this country, and I just don't happen. I mean, I know that there are a lot of people that say, well, get rid of the RCMP and put in all these municipal police forces. Well, for starters, if you don't like the RCMP, I mean, and there's a lot of them that you don't like. There's good ones. Where do you suppose the police are going to come from with you put in a municipal force?
They'll come from the RCMP.
They're going to come from the
But
RCMP. They've got the same stripes.
That's taking advantage of the fact that there are cops that are good people. It's not the beat cops. It's not the guys in the cars that are the problem mostly. It's the people in Ottawa, and the fact that they're in Ottawa, 3,500 miles away.
Well, my concern
And
is
if every
that they move away all the
municipality,
time.
if every municipality has to hire their own police force, and look after everything that you have to do to have a police force, it's cheaper to have the RCMP doing it. Just hire the RCMP, put them on a contract, and have them in your community. Look at the size of Surrey. Can you imagine what it would cost the municipality of Surrey to have their own police force? The third largest community in the country?
Well, it costs a little bit more than it costs already.
Not a little bit more. It'll cost a hell of a lot more. Anyway, that's...
I don't know what the mathematics are, but when I still had the daytime program...
Oh, but you'll figure it out, and you'll phone me tonight.
Well, no. I'm not. I promise you I won't. But I did know the mathematics 10 years ago, or whenever the contract was being renewed before. I guess it was 2000. And because we did several programs on it at that time, 3 or 4 anyway. And it wasn't that much more expensive, I thought.
And part of it is how it's structured, because you would end up with a provincial police force.
We have 15 municipal police forces now.
Yes.
Right.
In BC.
And
Port Moody.
Port Moody, New Westminster,
can afford their own.
West Van.
I don't see why the rest of us can't as well, and take some pride in our local police.
And it makes a bigger difference to the
like
police as
100 Mile
well,
House
because you end up first. I mean, this is an expensive place to live. When you have a police force that is based locally, you have to pay them enough to live in your municipality. There's just no way that you can get away with it. So yes, from that point of view, it probably would make a difference, but it would also make a difference from the point of view of the citizenry
I mean,
getting
right now,
getting a better bang for their buck, because the police do get to know what's
don't know
going
what-
on locally.
I don't know what the figures are today, but in 2000, as I remember, there were 119 of RCMP officers in North Vancouver City and District, and 84, 85 of them were living in Surrey and commuting every day, because nobody could afford to live in North Vancouver. And
How many of them are
even
living
the
in Chilliwack now?
Vancouver City Police one time had a rule that you had to live within, I don't know, 10 minutes of the border or some such thing. You could live in Burnaby or you could live in Richmond if you wanted to, but you had to be very close. And I don't know, somehow or other I think that our police officers should live in the community and know who people are and so on, and not just be transferred in from out of town.
You're looking for a Japanese-style police force.
Oh, Mitchell, Mitchell says, put your mic on.
You're looking for a Japanese-style police
And
force.
what does that mean?
Well, the direct translation of their name is something like Walking Man, and they're required to visit every home that their beat is on at least once a year just to catch up, and they're required to know the names of the people under their supervision.
Well, that's an interesting
And
concept,
I love
isn't it?
And they inherit the house, I believe. That might be changed, but they inherit the house, and it's the policeman's house. And he walks out, and he has a specific neighborhood, and he's supposed to know everybody there.
Well, we'll have to check into that. If that's
The only problem in Canada is that the post office would want them to deliver mail. As well.
So are you? So I gather what you're suggesting is in smaller communities, it's okay to keep the RCMP, or that every small community
because-
should have
well, no,
their own
smaller-
local police force.
In smaller communities, you don't have an awful lot of choice
I
because
think we
the cost.
need a provincial police force.
A provincial police force. I'd
Yeah.
like to see a provincial.
Well,
police
I've said
force like
I've said the same thing, but
OPP
the more
and QPP and
BPP, BCPP.
Bob Stewart, who's a very dear close friend of mine, whom I love dearly, is very much in favor. Cash Heat, who was in favor of it when he was with,
The
you
Vancouver
have to
Police
look at
Force.
this.
Yeah.
Bob Stewart was Vancouver Police, okay?
yeah,
Cash Heat was Vancouver Police.
and then West
The Vancouver Police have never liked the RCMP for starters, and the RCMP have never liked.
Yeah.
When we started Crime Stoppers, I can tell you, we could not get the VPD and the RCMP in the same room together to solve
That's
crime.
one of the best reasons to get rid of the RCMP.
We
much as I
couldn't
hate to say
get
it.
them together.
Well-
We finally managed to get them. They are working very closely together now, and it has changed over the years that they do work closely
Well,
together.
they've
but
got task force that they put together in this type
Yeah.
of thing as well.
and, yeah, that's
And of
the
course,
integrated task forces
we
are
had
great.
we had a really good friend, Pat Westfall, who was the
Yep.
liaison officer between the RCMP and the Vancouver City Police. So you couldn't get much closer to figuring out what was wrong and what was right than that.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of integration going on within
Yeah.
the police at the moment, and it seems to be working very well. Rather than having, one group going after gangs here and another group going after gangs here,
They've
and
got
none of
an
them
integrated-
talking.
integrated-
Well, they seem to
Yeah.
be.
Well, I
doing
mean,
a whole
what
lot
happened
good.
with the
Bacons?
the pig farm? No.
Well,
Oh,
That was a prime example
Yeah.
of information coming into the police, both municipal.
and it took 20 years to get to that point.
yeah.
And they weren't meshing. They weren't working together. And I don't know that a municipal police force would be any better.
No, I don't know if you know, and we've gone back into some of you've known all sorts of people, and some of them have turned into not nice people, and most of the people have turned into very nice people. Is that a fair statement to say?
Well, I don't know any people that turned into bad people that went to jail.
None at all?
One.
One? Okay, well, remember, I used to share an office in Toronto with Conrad Black. So, I mean,
Yes.
It goes on
Yeah,
and
David's
on
got
and
a
on.
list of
I have a
dozen.
list of, Peter Pocklington's up for bankruptcy fraud now. Garth Dubinsky I knew. Bernie Evers I knew well. He's in jail for 25 years from WorldCom and owned the Douglas Ranch. I mean, there's so many people that
You get out and about more than I do.
well, you see more people than I do. I'm just talking about a whole bunch of business people that were.
Well, poor
I mean, and now we've got
circumstances.
another one. Ian Tao in Victoria is about to plead guilty, I understand, on March the 4th, and he took off, and he was, Victoria Symphony and every charity in Victoria took off with everybody's money.